Hi, and thank you for joining me with Myth Busting with Keystone Wealth Partners. My name is John Hagenson. I'm the Managing Director at Keystone Wealth Partners. And today what I want to talk with you about is the sequence of returns. And the myth is the order in which we get returns doesn't matter. It doesn't impact our end result, our end balance of our accounts. Now, on one hand, that's correct. And what I mean by that is when you're in the accumulation stage of your money, when you're accumulating for retirement and you're not taking any distributions from your account, that is absolutely true. The order in which you get returns has no bearing. It all comes down to at the end of the investment time horizon, what was your average rate of return? Okay? And to put this in perspective, if you had two 40-year-olds, they both went to two separate financial advisors who developed different strategies for them. And both people came with $100,000. Investor A and Investor B come with $100,000 at age 40. And they want to retire at 65. And both advisors earn them an average return of 8% per year on their money. At the end of that 25-year period, each investor would have they would both have about $680,000 roughly. The exact same amount, even though in this scenario, the two advisors invested their money completely differently. It was the order in year one, they got different returns. In year two, they got different returns. But at the end of it, their average returns were the same. They had the exact same amount of money. But now those two investors are at age 65, and they have their $680,000. And now they want to start taking a 5% withdrawal out of the account. So they want to live on a little over $30,000 a year for income. Well, what do? They go to their advisors, and they say, hey, I want to take 5% a year out. Can I do that? What do you think their advisors say? Sure, of course. Like, haven't I proven myself to you? I've been making you 8% per year for the last 25 years. All we need to do is keep making the same amount of money and you'll be fine. You're only going to take 5% out and we're going to make you 8. You'll pass, millions onto your kids when you're finally passing away at age 90 or whatever age that is. Well, here's the interesting thing. In that exact scenario of these two investors, Investor A, I think this was B, I can't remember, but you get the idea. Investor over here is at age 90 and has $2.1 million. They've taken their 5%, they've made their 8%, and their 680 grand has grown to over $2 million. Well, the other investor over here, who still was averaging 8%, but got a totally different sequence of those returns, and in fact, this investor over here, the first couple years of retirement were not good years. They were poor performing years. That person ran out of money and was living in their children's basement at age 81. Same average rate of return, but in a different order. Do you see when they were accumulating and younger in life, it didn't matter. That's why you've heard you can take more risk, you can have more volatility before leading up to retirement. Because that volatility is your friend, it doesn't hurt you. Once you're in retirement, having a properly engineered financial plan that takes into account where you're going to take money from and the volatility in the accounts that you're taking them from is incredibly impactful. Because if those two investors were sitting next to each other at age 90, you know what would happen? The investor the retiree who's been living in their children's basement for the last 9 years would look at the other investor who has over $2 million and say, what did you make on your money? And the investor with $2 million would say, I don't know, my advisor's been making me 8% a year since I was 45 or 40 years old. That's all, I just make an 8%. Well, the investor who's been living in their children's basement for the last 9 years is going to throw down their pen on the table and say, this is crazy, I've been lied to. I was told that I was making 8% per year this whole time. You must have made way more than 8%, or I must have made way less than 8%. The crazy part about it, the counterintuitive part of this whole thing, they both averaged 8%. But one of their plans was much less volatile and much more predictable. So if you're nearing or into retirement, you really need to think through how much volatility do I have in my plan, and can my income plan afford that much volatility? And if you don't know that, that's something that we evaluate here at Keystone Wealth Partners for folks just like you. So I hope this was helpful for you, and thanks for joining me.